Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Jasper's condition has nothing to do with you. I'm just here to warn you to stay away from him. Nevertheless, Willow was too anxious not to press on. I'm begging you. Please just tell me how he's doing. I'm very worried about him. Please, Miss Hawkins. I'm begging you. Amy snorted and responded, if you want him to stay alive and well, you should stay away from him for good. Don't ever look for him again. Willow's heart squeezed painfully when she saw those words. She was aware of Amy's feelings for Jasper, so she knew it was understandable that the woman resented her. Please take good care of him, Amy. Willow was utterly defeated. She's right. I'm always the reason why Jasper gets hurt. It's my fault. I have no right to ask anything of him. Amy's response came back. As if I need you to tell me that. I knew him first. Love him more than you do. Willow's breath caught in her throat. After reading Amy's text, she sighed. That's right. It doesn't matter who's beside him. All that matters is that there's someone there taking care of him. Can you tell me how he's doing, Miss Hawkins? I promised to stay away from him, but I want to know how he's doing. Willow sent out another heartfelt plea. Alas, Amy disappeared without responding to that. Even though Willow tried to send more texts, Amy didn't answer any of them. Willow stared at her screen, even though she was disappointed. At least she was certain that Jasper was alive. He's alive, but just how badly injured is he? It finally dawned on Willow just how big the world was. She didn't have the ability to find anyone. She couldn't find Jasper. She could only wait until he returned, but would he? Amy closed her laptop. She realized how much of a bother Willow was as the latter kept pestering her with questions about Jasper's condition. It annoyed her. I certainly won't tell her anything about Jasper's condition. Let her worry her heart out. Still, Amy sighed. Jasper kept calling Willow's name in his dream just now. It's obvious just how much he cares about her. Will Elle even have a chance? It was morning. Jasper opened his eyes and glanced to the side of the bed. He felt as if he did hold a person's hand last night. He thought it was Willow's, but he couldn't tell if it had only been a dream or not. Therefore, when he opened his eyes and saw the empty room, his heart felt empty again. Just then, Antoine came in. He had been passing by and wanted to say a few words to Jasper. Antoine didn't close the door behind him. Amy came along and was just about to head in when she saw Antoine, so she waited outside instead. All of a sudden, she heard Antoine saying angrily, "You're not allowed to leave the base. You can't go anywhere in this condition." Amy jumped in fright. She looked through the glass window and saw Jasper and Antoine staring at each other. Jasper looked frustrated. Antoine was so furious that he seemed to have forgotten that Jasper couldn't hear anything. He continued, "Didn't I tell you to stop having any contact with the Presgraves? Why did you insist on seeing them anyway? You and that young lady from the Presgrave family are not meant to be, do you hear me?" He was mad because he nearly lost his nephew. In this line of work, being emotional was a death sentence. It would only hurt Jasper. At the same time, Willow would be his weakness too. He could end up losing his life at any given moment if he couldn't remain cold and unfeeling while on the job. After overhearing everything, Amy couldn't stop herself from smirking. It turned out that Antoine didn't want Jasper to get involved with the Presgraves either. It doesn't matter how much Jasper likes Willow. There's no way he can be with her. Jasper closed his eyes. He didn't refute Antoine's words, but he didn't agree with him either. Antoine shot Jasper one last piercing glare before leaving in a huff. Amy quickly hid in a corner. Once Antoine left, Amy came back out and went over to check on Jasper. Jasper was on the settee. He was dressed in gray. Even though he had lost his hearing, he still radiated strength, the air around him sharp. Amy took a seat beside him and gave him a gentle look. Jasper looked away, immersed in his thoughts. Amy picked up a notebook and wrote, "Listen to your uncle, Jasper. Don't make him mad." Jasper looked at the message and went back to his thoughts. Amy wrote, "Aside from the organization, you're the closest person to him. He's scared of losing you again." Jasper glanced at the notebook again. He knew why his uncle did this, but that man had no idea how he was feeling. "Willow already found a new lover, you know that?" Amy scrolled through the gallery and placed her phone before Jasper. Jasper looked at the photo, but he wasn't agitated. He knew the relationship Willow shared with this man. Amy smiled and then wrote, "In my opinion, she didn't like you that much if she fell for another man that quickly." Jasper raised his head and sternly said, "You don't know her. Don't slander her." Amy paused for a moment before she chortled. She wrote, "Jasper, your hearing is damaged, and yet she's happily dating someone else. I'm just feeling for you." Jasper shot Amy a warning glare. He would not allow anyone to slander Willow. Amy's heart sank. She sighed and wrote, "Forget about her, Jasper. You and her don't make a good match. We are. We can be partners and a couple." Jasper looked at the message, and he shook his head. Adamantly, he said, "I will not fall in love with anyone but her. Stop wasting your time on me." After that, he left. Amy did not look happy at all. She couldn't believe Jasper was still obsessed with Willow. What part of her is better than me? Willow had lunch with Leslie. Seeing that there was something on Willow's mind, Leslie asked, "What's wrong, Willow? Is something bothering you?" Willow raised her head. Solemnly, she said, "Sorry, Leslie, but I lied. I have someone I like. I can't date you, I'm sorry." Leslie paused for a moment. He could feel that she didn't like him, but he liked her. "Tell me about your crush," said Leslie. Willow then told him about her and Jasper's story. Leslie was a little surprised. He didn't expect someone that remarkable to be around Willow. Willow didn't tell him who he was, but Leslie could imagine the kind of man that person was. "He got hurt because of me. I can't face him anymore, but I want to see him too. I don't know what to do." "You dated me to rile him up, so he would see you?" Leslie asked. Willow nodded. "That was the plan, but it's useless. He still didn't show up." "Don't give up. I'll help you. Just tell me what to do." "Really?" Willow looked at him gratefully. Leslie smiled. "We can't be lovers, but I'm still your brother's junior. You're like a sister to me. Of course, I'll help." Willow just wanted to put this to the test and see if Jasper would show up. She was going to hold an engagement party. If he wouldn't show up, then she would stop forcing him to. She said, "I need you to help me with an act, Leslie. Can you?" Leslie nodded. "Sure. What's the act?" After Willow told him about her plan, he nodded without hesitation. "Sure, I can do that and see if he'll show up. No matter what happened between you two, at least you should talk it out." Willow nodded. Jasper should show up and tell her if he didn't want to be with her, not hide in the dark and avoid her. It was tormenting for her. If he didn't want to be with her, she would try to forget about him. Willow was someone who could let the past go if she wanted to. When she went back home that afternoon, she told her parents about the engagement party. She said she liked Leslie and wanted to get engaged to him as soon as possible. Anastasia and Elliot were shocked. "She's getting engaged all of a sudden? And in 3 days? Are you sure you want to do this, Willow?" Anastasia looked at her daughter. Leslie was a brilliant man, but they had to spend more time together to see if they could get along. Yeah, I am, Mom. I like him a lot. I'd like to get engaged first and then start dating him, said Willow. She couldn't let her parents see through that plan, or it would be worthless. Did Leslie agree to this? He did, said Willow. Leslie was willing to help, so he was playing along too. I think you should try going on more dates. Before doing this, Willow advised Elliot. He didn't want his daughter to suffer in the future. I know it's sudden, you guys, but I'm serious. Willow looked at her parents earnestly. Anastasia and Elliot didn't think she was lying, so they agreed. Fine. We'll do this, then. Send me a picture of the invites once you have printed them, Mom. The engagement party came right out of left field, catching all news outlets by surprise. They only knew about it the same day it was decided. Right away, they switched out the headlines for this latest news. Willow sat before her computer, excited and a little nervous. She was going really far just to force Jasper out of hiding, and she would take any consequences that came along with it. She just wanted to see him, even if it meant he would curse her. She didn't want much. All she needed was to see him. The marriage rattled the city at first and then the whole nation. Amy found out about it as well. She stared at the news in awe, but her heart was soaring. She's marrying someone else? That means Jasper can't court her anymore. A smile twinkled in her eyes. Thank you, God. Now he can see what she's really like. She's a rich girl. Of course she won't fall for someone like Jasper, who is in a profession that involves violence. Look at her fiancé. He's brilliant and a perfect match for her. Just live a happy married life, Willow. Never show up in front of Jasper again. I wonder if Jasper knows. Maybe I should remind him to check it out. Amy would love to see the look on Jasper's face, so she decided to show him the news herself. Amy guessed that Jasper must be working out now. He was incredibly disciplined when it came to maintaining his body. She came to the gym and saw that only Jasper was around. He had taken off his shirt, revealing his sexy abs underneath. He had the body of a Greek god, which captivated Amy. She thought it would be a waste if no woman could enjoy that body. Jasper saw that Amy had come, so he picked up his shirt and put it on. Amy approached him, smiling. She knew he couldn't hear her no matter what she said, so she scrolled her phone until she saw the news of the engagement again and handed her phone to him. Jasper took it and had a look. His pupils went wide, and he clenched his fists tightly. He felt like punching someone. Amy stared at him intently. She saw panic and worry in his eyes, but there was no fury or frustration at discovering this betrayal. What? He still doesn't hate her? Even when she's going to marry someone else? Jasper calmed down in the end. He handed Amy her phone back and was about to leave, but Amy stopped him. She typed something in her phone and showed it to Jasper. You're still going to find her, Jasper? Jasper frowned. That's my business. Amy typed, no, you can't. She's getting engaged. Just let her go. Let her find her happiness. Jasper looked at the message and stared into the distance. He knew Willow wasn't doing this for real. She just wanted to force him out of hiding and meet up with her. He didn't see this coming at first, and the photo riled him up. He was angry seeing her standing so close to another man. Fine. You win, Willow. I'll see you, and no one can stop me. Worried about Jasper's continued silence, Amy typed, don't be rash, Jasper. You can't force love. If you love her, you should let her go. Jasper read the message and smiled. You don't know her at all. Amy gnashed her teeth angrily. This again. What does he mean I don't know her? The moment Jasper left, Amy called Antoine. Yes? Antoine, I think Jasper is going to leave the base and see Willow. Why? Because he saw the news. Willow's getting engaged in Averna. What? She's getting engaged? Antoine was delighted to hear that news. If that was the case, then his nephew would have no chance of getting back with Willow anymore, and he could finally give up. Show me the news. Antoine wanted to see it as well. You have to stop Jasper. He might ruin her engagement. I'll keep an eye on him, said Antoine. After he saw the news, he thought that the Presgraves only held this engagement to make Willow forget about Jasper. If that's the case, then it's a good thing. At least Jasper will give up now. Antoine left his office and came to Jasper's room. He was already packing up. Antoine put on a stern look. You're not allowed to leave, Jasper. Jasper picked up his luggage and turned to his uncle. I have to go. There was resolve in Jasper's eyes. Antoine paused for a moment. For the longest time, he had no idea what his nephew wanted, but at that moment, he knew. One could give Jasper the whole world, but he would refuse it. He just wanted Willow. Antoine knew Jasper. He couldn't stop the lad, who was a rebel, from leaving. Antoine sighed. Hold for a minute. I'll get you something. Jasper thought Antoine would stop him, but since his uncle was relenting, he too took a step back. He waited for a moment, and Antoine came back with a gift box. It was obviously from another country, and it was beautifully packaged too. Antoine opened it up. Jasper found himself presented with a hearing aid. Touched, Jasper looked at his uncle. So he was taking this for me. Antoine picked it up and handed it to him. Here. See if it can help you. Jasper tried regular hearing aids before, but they still couldn't help him hear. This, however, looked more advanced. He wore it around his ear, and after 2 weeks of total silence, his world was filled with sounds again. It wasn't as great as his own ears, but it was enough. Jasper nodded. Yeah. I can hear again. Antoine heaved a sigh. It's a stopgap. I'll find you a donor eventually. Thank you, Uncle. Jasper hugged him. Antoine had been worrying about him all this time. After his parents' deaths, Antoine was his closest family member. Antoine saw Jasper as his own son as well. At that moment, he felt like he was seeing his own son spreading his wings and setting off into the world. Go. I have your back no matter what. Antoine then patted his shoulder. Jasper nodded. After he finished packing up a small suitcase, Antoine called his men and told them to give Jasper a ride on the chopper. Jasper quickly made his way to the helipad. Amy went after him. She saw a hearing aid hanging on his ear, so she shouted, "Hold it right there, Jasper." Jasper stopped in his tracks. Amy approached him, confusion swirling in her eyes. She's getting engaged to someone else. Why are you still going after her? Do you have to bow to her like a dog? Amy threw herself onto him and wrapped her arms tightly around him. Please, just give me a chance. I'm as good as any woman out there. My love won't shine less than any other woman's. Jasper put his luggage down and held Amy's shoulder, staring at her. Amy, you're a brilliant woman. I've always seen you as a good companion and a subordinate, but you can't force love. Please, get that into your head. Jasper pushed her away and walked toward the helicopter. There was a spring in his step. A weight had been lifted off his heart. He could finally face the part of him he had been afraid to. He wished to free himself of his shackles and pursue the one he loved. Amy saw the helicopter off, and she closed her eyes in despair. Tears streamed down her cheeks. The news outlets were already spreading the news of Willow's engagement. Willow didn't care what they were doing. Right now, she was in Jasper's villa, looking at the message she left. I hope this still works. Just like how she did it the first time, she made him come back by starting an engagement. She had no idea if that idea would work again. If it failed, she would pack up her bags and find an island to live on while she licked her wounds. A military aircraft pierced the clouds and quickly landed in Averna's military base. A military off-road vehicle was already on standby, and Jasper tossed his bags into the back seat. He got into the car and charged onto the highway outside the airport. He was nervous and panicked. It had been a long time since he did something so impulsive. It had been too long since he followed his heart. Just then, Jasper slammed on the brakes, and the car skidded to a halt outside a florist. It shocked the pedestrians. They wondered how hard the guy must have stepped on the brakes to even cause sparks to fly out. What's the big rush? When Jasper came out of the car, a few young ladies covered their mouths. Internally, they were screaming, "Oh my God, he's hot." Seeing him go into the florist, the girls had a question. Is he buying flowers for a girl? She must be the happiest girl on earth. A while later, Jasper came out with a bouquet of roses, and he carefully put it in the co-driver's seat. Then, he drove quickly toward his villa. He knew she was there, waiting for him. The shine of twilight rained into the villa. Willow stared at it. She could feel the sadness that was hanging in the air, and she closed her eyes. She was getting ready to leave, but then she heard sounds coming from the outside. She sighed. Perhaps it's the bodyguards. They might be in a hurry to tell me to leave. There's dinner tonight with Dad, Mom, and Leslie's parents, after all. She heard someone opening the door, but she didn't turn back. 10 minutes, she said. Jasper looked at the sad girl on the settee, and he felt something squeezing his heart. This is all my fault. She's disappointed because I can't make up my mind. Because I keep running away. Jasper slowly made his way to the settee. Hearing his footsteps, Willow thought the bodyguards were coming to tell her to hurry up. She turned slightly. I said, 10 minutes. Jasper held out the bouquet and gently said, It's me, Willow. Willow's eyes went wide. She stood up and whirled around, only to be greeted by Jasper and the bouquet he was holding. It was as if time stopped at this moment. She felt her heart slowly racing, and faster it went. She felt her broken heart slowly mend until it was whole again, delight surging within her. She then saw something hanging on the side of Jasper's head. It was probably a hearing aid. She didn't answer him, but instead went around the settee quickly and stood behind him to have a closer look at what he was wearing. It looked advanced. Even though it was hanging on Jasper's head, it still looked nice. Still, Willow was worried for him. What is this? She asked quickly. Jasper turned around and faced her, still holding the bouquet of flowers. Hearing aid. What happened to your ears? Tears were glistening in Willow's eyes, and she broke down. She had always been tough around everyone else, but not him. When he was around, she was just a fragile girl who needed his protection. Jasper put the bouquet down and pulled Willow into his embrace. She fell into his arms and took in his scent. She could smell a hint of antiseptic as well, so she knew that he must have been healing up all this time. I shouldn't have blacked out that day. Jasper looked at her and assured, My hearing is damaged, so I need this to help me. But don't worry, I'll be fine. Willow looked at him, tears in her eyes. I'll tell Dad to get you the best doctor money can hire. I will make sure you're healed. Jasper patted her head. But we have the best doctor in our group. He's already coming up with a treatment plan, so you shouldn't trouble your dad. Willow held him tightly. She complained, Why didn't you call me even once? Do you have any idea how much I've missed you? I thought you were. Willow stopped talking. She didn't want to say something unlucky. Jasper sighed. I'm sorry. This is my fault. Willow wanted to scold him, but after she saw the state he was in, she just wanted to give him all her love. She was touched. She wanted to thank him for coming back to her again. It made life worth living. Jasper clumsily picked up the flowers from the settee and told her, "Here's the roses you wanted." Willow was embarrassed. "So you've seen me all this time? While I was at home?" I can't explain why he came with flowers otherwise. Jasper didn't lie. "Yeah. I saw everything. Including every message you left." Willow thought she was silly for doing that. She took the bouquet and held it in her arms. Her eyes crinkled as a big grin curled her lips, but then she realized something. Worried, she said, "Oh, right. I have to cancel the engagement. I have to tell Leslie. I hope I can make it. Please don't let our parents meet yet. Please let Leslie have time to explain everything to his folks. And please don't let them yell at him." Willow called Leslie, and Leslie picked it up right away. "Hey, Willow. I'm canceling the meeting tonight, Leslie." "He's back," said Willow. Leslie was happy for her. "Really? He showed up?" Willow looked at Jasper. She said, "Yeah, he did. He's right in front of me now." Leslie gave Willow his best wishes. "I wish you happiness, Willow. I'll tell my folks." "You tell yours too." "Thanks," said Willow earnestly. Jasper narrowed his eyes. He had never seen her chatting with a guy that happily, and it made him jealous. He had looked into Leslie's background and knew how brilliant and good-looking he was. Could she have developed feelings for him? They hung out for a while, after all. Willow hung up, and then she saw Jasper staring at her with a conflicted gaze. She blinked. "What's wrong? You used the same trick again. Couldn't you have come up with something more creative?" Jasper grumbled smugly. Willow said, "If it works, why change the formula? I do have some cards up my sleeve. Leave me again, and I'll put them to use." Jasper pulled her into his embrace. He said in a raspy voice, "Did you catch feelings for Leslie?" Willow blinked. "Why do you ask? Are you jealous?" Jasper looked at her quietly. Willow put an arm around his neck and stood on tiptoes, and then she pressed her lips against his and kissed him. This was proof that he was the only one she loved. She would never fall for anyone else. Jasper stopped breathing for a moment. He put an arm around her waist and held the back of her head with his other hand. He held her in his embrace, declaring that she was his. Jasper was territorial like a wolf when it came to this matter. He then returned her kiss with more than double the passion. Willow closed her eyes, taking in his warmth and love. She pulled herself closer to him, and she felt him tightening his hug as well. There was no space between them, and it was as if nothing in the world could separate them now. A long, long while later, Willow's phone rang. Flustered, she quickly pushed Jasper away. Jasper was breathing heavily and staring at her pink face as she checked her phone. "Oh no. It's my brother. He's going to kill me." "Till take it." Jasper tried to take her phone. He would take all the scolding for her. Willow was amused by his concern and chuckled. "Don't worry. He won't actually kill me. Might lecture me, though." Willow took the call. "Hey, Jared." "Willow, Leslie just called. He canceled the meeting." "What happened?" "And he said you have something to tell me." "What is it?" Jared was worried. His sister's marriage was a big deal. Willow coughed. "Yeah, I have something to tell you, Jared, but not now. I'll explain everything when I get home. Tell Dad and Mom to calm down." "Yeah, you should come home right now. Dad and Mom are here too," said Jared. Willow hung up. Jasper held her hand and said, "With determination, I'll go with you." Willow held his arm. "Not tonight. Tomorrow. We'll have a meal at my place. I'll take all the lectures and scolding. This whole fiasco was something I came up with, after all. I'm not scared, said Jasper. Willow blinked. I know, but just give me one night. We'll meet tomorrow. Willow didn't want him to leave either, but she had to go home and explain herself. She also wanted to show how determined she was to marry Jasper, and only Jasper. Willow stood on her tiptoe and kissed Jasper's cheek. Wait for me. And don't run away ever again. She picked up her purse and was about to leave, but then she saw the bouquet on the settee. Willow held it in her arms and waved Jasper goodbye. See you. Willow walked out of the house and got into the car. Quickly, they took her back home, but she had no idea that a green off-road vehicle was following her. The Presgraves were waiting for Willow. They wanted to hear her part of the story since Leslie's family didn't say anything. Leslie didn't tell them the whole story either. They wanted to hear their daughter's explanation. They wondered why the meeting was cancelled all of a sudden. Don't worry, guys. She's on her way back. How was she when you talked to her? Elliot asked. Worried, but that was it, answered Jared. His sister was up to a lot of things lately, and he was getting confused. He wondered what she was doing. Mom, Dad, just be patient. Willow will explain everything. There must be a reason for this, said Ellen. Anastasia nodded. She patiently waited for Willow to come back and explain everything. 20 minutes later, the bodyguard stopped the car outside the house. Willow got out and came into the house only to be met by her whole family. Nervously, she approached her parents. Her head hung low as she said, I know you're mad. The engagement was a lie. I never planned on marrying Leslie. We were just putting on an act. Anastasia and Elliot were shocked. They couldn't believe their daughter would put on an act this big. Elliot looked a little reproachful, but he wasn't angry. Why did you do this? Because I. Before she could finish, someone else came in. The Presgraves were surprised to see him. Jasper. A surprised Jared approached Jasper. He liked this guy. Jasper almost sacrificed himself for Willow, after all. Anastasia exchanged a look with her husband. Why did he show up all of a sudden? Jasper looked at the Presgraves and took all the blame. Don't get angry at her. This is all my fault. Willow panicked. Dad, Mom, don't get mad at him. This isn't his fault. I did it. I came up with this plan to force him to come back. Anastasia exchanged another look with her husband. They believed Willow. Only a prankster like her would do something like this. Elliot welcomed Jasper as an elder. We're happy to see you safe and sound, Jasper. Welcome to my house. You're wrong, Dad. He lost his hearing just to save me, and now he needs a hearing aid, said Willow. Jasper had done too much for her. Elliot told Jasper, let's take this to the study, Jasper. Elliot looked at Anastasia, who nodded. With his wife's approval, he could talk about this matter in depth. He urged Jasper again, come. We should talk, Jasper. Willow looked at her father nervously before turning back to look at Jasper with worry etched on her face. Jasper was nervous, but he played it cool. He nodded at Willow before quickly following Elliot. Once they were gone, Jared pulled his sister aside. Curious, he asked, how did you know he was alive? Willow said honestly, I heard you and Dad talking about it. Jared looked resigned. I knew we wouldn't be able to hide it from her. She asked softly, I wonder what they're going to talk about. A smile curled Jared's lips. Why should you worry about them? You have a big mess to clean up yourself. Willow took the teasing willingly and swayed Jared's arm. But you'll help me, won't you, Jared? The company's PR can do anything. This is nothing for them, right? Ellen came over, smiling. Don't worry, Willow. He'll deal with the aftermath. Just enjoy your reunion with Jasper. Since Ellen had spoken, Jared put an arm over Willow's shoulder and told her, fine. Since Ellen has taken your side, I'll deal with this for you. Willow, come here for a second. We need to talk, said Anastasia. When Willow turned around and saw her mother's slightly stern expression, she immediately calmed down and followed her mother to the corridor outside. Anastasia observed her daughter for a few seconds before asking, do you like Jasper that much? Nodding firmly and seriously, Willow replied, I do. But his career and job will bring some uncertainties to your relationship in the future. Are you sure you're ready to be with him? Willow nodded toward her mother again. I'm sure, Mom. Besides him, I will never fall for another man. After the fake engagement plan, Anastasia had a clear idea of her daughter's feelings. Willow had indeed fallen for Jasper. Mom, I would like to seek your and Dad's approval. I've thought about it very clearly. I want to marry him, no matter what circumstances we might face. I'm afraid of none of them. Willow held her mother's hand and spoke out her mind. Caressing her daughter's head, Anastasia glanced at her. The daughter she raised was about to get married, and though she was somewhat reluctant to let go, she was happy for Willow because she found the man she loved, and her marriage would be out of true love. At that moment, Willow heard footsteps and turned around to see her father and Jasper approaching. She ran over to her father and asked, Dad, are you guys done talking? Elliot looked back at Jasper. Jasper, why don't you think about it again? This daughter of mine is a troublemaker. Unable to contain his laughter, Jasper replied, I just happen to be someone who deals with troublemakers. Upon hearing those words, Willow was stunned for a few moments, and her eyes widened with happiness as she glanced at her father. Dad, so I take it that you approved of our relationship? How can I not agree? They had even devised a fake engagement ceremony, so if I keep disagreeing, this daughter of mine might cause an even larger commotion. Willie, Jasper hasn't eaten anything yet. Bring him out for a meal at a restaurant, Elliot instructed his daughter. It was also a chance for them to spend some time together. Willow happily grabbed Jasper's hand and said, Let's go. I'll bring you somewhere with nice food. Jasper turned to Elliot and said, Mr. and Mrs. Presgrave will be leaving first. Anastasia watched them leave and said to her husband, How did it go? Jasper has decided to retire from the military for Willie's sake. From now on, he won't have to go on dangerous missions anymore. I believe he will be able to bring happiness to Willie. Anastasia also had faith in her daughter's taste, and after finding out Jasper was even willing to sacrifice his life for Willow, she and Elliot felt assured to leave their daughter in his hands. In the meantime, Willow felt relieved while sitting in Jasper's car. She turned to the man beside her and pleaded, Promise me that no matter what happens in the future, don't ever disappear from my side again and leave me alone. Okay? Jasper's deep gaze fell onto her face. I promise. She recalled a restaurant with great privacy and gave him the address. Then, they headed for that restaurant. Once they arrived, they chose a quiet room and ordered their food. The room seemed particularly cozy and comfortable. Jasper insisted that Willow sat on the couch. When she touched his ear, he understood that she was feeling distressed for him, so he held her hand and gazed at her gently. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. After leaning into his embrace and snuggling into his chest, Willow felt a great sense of security. Besides her father and older brother, Jasper was the man she felt the safest with. It was as though she had the courage to go against the entire world whenever she stood beside him. Jasper rubbed her head and lightly kissed her hair, breathing in the faint floral scent on her body. Whenever he thought about the day of the rescue, he would still feel frightened. Every time he thought about it, his body would tense up, and he would feel chills run down his spine. If he hadn't succeeded in stopping Calvin at the last moment, the destructive bomb would explode right beside her. After he came to this realization, he had nightmares about it for several nights straight, scaring him awake, drenched in sweat. Even though he had woken up, he still couldn't dispel the fear in him. Jasper tightened his hug around Willow, pulling her deeper into his embrace. Though Willow felt slightly breathless, she could sense the man's strong affection and didn't struggle, letting him hug her tightly. Meanwhile, Jasper soon realized he had been hugging her too tightly and released her. When Willow looked up, she met his deep eyes that were filled with affection. They resembled a sea of affection, one she'd willingly drown in. Moreover, the emotion in his eyes no longer seemed restrained or suppressed, but honest and passionate. Like a lake with clear water, his every emotion was clearly shown to her. Willow was elated because this man was finally hers, and hers alone. She no longer had to worry about him leaving. Just as she was about to kiss him, there was a knock on the door. It was probably the dishes they ordered, so Willow could only pull him back over to sit at the table. The sumptuous meal was served in one go. Since the waitress could sense the dense, flirty atmosphere in the room, she quickly left after serving the dishes. In addition, she had sneaked several glances at Jasper just now because she had never seen a handsome man who was also filled with positive energy. To be able to become the man's girlfriend would be the happiest thing in the world. Willow served the man some dishes while he stabbed a piece of fried shrimp with his fork and placed it beside her lips. Happily taking a bite, Willow chewed on her food while looking at the man with her bright eyes. The man hadn't eaten anything but had already gulped several times. No matter how delicious the food was, they weren't as attractive to him as the young woman before him. Following that, the couple fed each other, one mouthful after another, and finished their dinner after an hour. Once they were done eating, Jasper brought Willow strolling at a nearby square. Since Jasper had always been busy with work, this was the first time he had such a relaxing stroll while holding hands with someone else. Willow held his arm and occasionally looked up to admire the man's appearance. Everywhere he walked by, he would attract the attention of other women. That was because he was too stunning. No matter what was his temperament or appearance, he was the most eye-catching one in the crowd. Wow! He's so handsome. Is he a celebrity? A young woman gasped. Willow looked back and saw several young women had stopped walking and were busy trying to take photos of Jasper sneakily. Suddenly, Willow felt somewhat displeased because she didn't intend to benefit other women when deciding to bring her man out. She held the man's arm and walked toward a less crowded area. Let's go over there. Jasper immediately held her shoulders and headed to a less crowded street. Some trees were shielding the area, and coupled with the dim yellow streetlights, it created the perfect spot for a date. However, once they arrived, Willow discovered what this spot was used for. It was an attraction for couples. There were couples on each bench spaced about 10 meters apart. Some were hugging each other, some were whispering sweet nothings to each other, and some were even kissing. Blushing, Willow held Jasper's arm and walked away, but unexpectedly came to an even more deserted pathway. While Willow wanted a quiet place for them to enjoy the night view together, with how vicious and complicated modern society was, ordinary people wouldn't dare wander into such places because there were bound to be hidden dangers there. For example, thieves. After Willow and Jasper were over 20 meters down the pathway, 3 men suddenly appeared, with one in front of them and 2 behind them. If an ordinary couple had stumbled upon such a situation, they would have been shivering in fear and at a loss. Willow noticed the 3 were relatively young. Obviously, they were too lazy to make an effort and relied only on robbing others to get by, so Willow kindly reminded them, "If you don't want to end up in the hospital, I'd suggest you leave now. Don't even think about robbing us. Miss, hand over your bag immediately and take off your watch and jewelry. Otherwise, we'll let you have a taste of what it feels like to get stabbed. Now, move it," one of them viciously threatened the couple.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.